let's get started first by introducing yourself, Hayden. So give me your name, family, hobbies.
So, yeah, my name's Hayden Pearson. My dad, he's kind of the reason I'm out here, which I have my whole mom's side, all of her uncles. I think I've got 6 great uncles, a great grandfather, my dad. They're all rivermen, all captains at some point.
So you wasn't getting out of it.
I didn't have a good chance. Didn't have a good chance to get out of it. So, long family history there. As far as hobbies go, typical Delta boy, hunting, fishing. Love being outdoors.
You got family at home?
Wow. I do. I have a wife. We've been married for 9 years. I have a 4-year-old, Wyatt, and a 1-year-old, Wynn, and they keep me busy, keep me running all the time.
I bet. Keep Mama busy, too.
Oh, for sure. She's a trooper, though.
Yeah. So how long you been at Jantran?
Well, from the early days, including when I was just a kid, I think I got my license, and then maybe a month or so later I was here doing anything.
Got your driver's license?
Got my driver's license, yeah. So that would have been 2006. I was 15 and a half. And I guess kind of the tradition, that some of the longtime employees, their kids were able to come and work in the summer times. Mm. And Mr. Joe was gracious enough to let me come in and, do whatever I could,
So you worked all summers?
I did. I think my first job here was painting a cyclone fence silver again, so good times.
And you went to school?
I did. So I went when I turned 18, that summer before I graduated high school, I was 17, too young to get on the boat yet with my dad to learn, the whole decking side, what goes on out in the river. Joe had decided to start building boats again, so they started on the Miss Alex. So they started in 2008, and any time that I wasn't doing my chores around here, helping wade and supply, I would sneak down and help them weld, any chance I got, sometimes maybe getting a little trouble, doing that instead of what I was supposed to be doing. So I would, do that, and I guess he kind of saw I had an interest in that. So turned 18, was able to get on the boat with my dad, and that was a different experience.
I bet it was.
He didn't cut me much slack, but it was great to get to learn that side of it. So got on the boat with him and started here at Delta State. My wife was a year behind me, so of course I didn't want to jump over to Mississippi State while she was still here. So I started my first year in college here at Delta State to get some, basics out of the way. And then she graduated and we both went to Mississippi State. Mm. So was over there and got a lot of mechanical engineering under my belt, enough to be dangerous anyway. Mm-hmm. And I guess I was 20 or 21, maybe just turned 21 in 2012, and I remember it very vividly. I was driving to work. Me and my dad were on the same shift. I was on his boat, so we were in my truck driving to Jantran to go start night shift. And my dad got a call on his phone, and he handed it to me. He said, "Here, it's Joe Janis." I said, "Okay." And I picked up the phone, and he said, "Hey, this is Joe Janis. How are you today?" I said, "I'm good, headed to work." He said, "Well, I think I want to start building boats again." He said, "I know you've showed some interest. You're over at State. Do you want in on this project?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, of course." So that's kind of where it all started right there. Mr. Joe saw I had an interest in it and took off from there.
So Dad, I quit.
Pretty much.
I'm done with the 5 because it was 12-hour shifts. You were telling me about that.
And there was a little overlap. There was still some in between. Like I said, the first part of being at Mississippi State, there were several of those weekends where, broke college student had to pay rent somehow and pay for school. So I would leave Starkville on Friday afternoon and get over here by 5, get on the boat, work Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, hop off the boat at 5 o'clock Monday morning and fly back to Starkville as quick as I could to make it to class at 8 or 9 o'clock. So good times.
So it was a good phone call.
It was a good phone call. Good phone call.
So that got you were already a little bit interested in building boats.
Yeah, my dad being a a pilot in the fleet, I was always interested tinkering with towboats. I always looked up to my dad, and it was just they kind of infatuated me. And my grandfather, his dad was a commercial fisherman, and my dad commercial fished too, some on the side. So I remember helping him riding the boat to take up trot lines or whatever, and I would ride by here and see the boats on dry dock, and I always, kind of enamored me. So it was cool. I was always drawing boats as a kid. He would get home tired, and I was like, where does this radar go? Where does this antenna go? And he was nice enough to kind of tell me that. And I know he didn't want to talk about towboats after 4 days and 12 hours at a time. So.
A used semi-truck is a great way to kick off your career as an owner-operator on a budget, and buying from a reputable dealer like Aero Truck Sales ensures you're getting a reliable truck that fits your needs. They carry trucks from all the major manufacturers in the trucking industry and perform a thorough inspection of every truck on their lot to ensure safety and quality and give you confidence that you're getting a reliable truck that will last you for years at a price that you can afford. Being a longtime partner with Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast, we trust them to provide our owner-operators with a truck that fits their needs and matches our qualifications. So whether you're a first-time owner-operator or just looking for a new-to-you rig, be sure to give Keith Wilson and Trey Visor a call at 573-216-6047 and let them know you heard it here on the Oakley Podcast.
Of course, you had it in you, and then you get this opportunity to help, the owner start building boats here at the yard here at Jantran. And from the outside looking in, Hayden, I'm like, how do you even start building a towboat?
So
he drew it out on paper.
Right. So that's kind of how we started. So that's how his intentions were, to show me how to do it on paper and loft it out and all of that. Well, we got about halfway through the first boat, and the first boat would have been the Rosedale. And he kind of guided me through it, and we had another foreman here, Johnny Estes. He had been here with him through the very early days when they started building boats back in the early 80s. And, Johnny showed me a lot, owe a lot to him also. He showed me a lot of the tricks and of the trade. Well, I told Mr. Joe about halfway through, it's like, well, this is really cool, to learn it this way, but I do have some AutoCAD experience, and it'd save us some time on some stuff. So we did still draw everything out. Every bulkhead, every sheet of steel. We actually started with a sheet of steel. We drew it out with soapstone on it by hand, all the measurements, and we cut it out by hand. And, the guys fabbed it up, put the stiffeners on, and we laid the keel, did everything by hand. So, we've progressed a little bit. Now I send my drawings to the steel company, and they cut it out. They have all the scribe lines, the directions of the angles, everything numbered, lengths, and all that. So they cut it. Everything's numbered. It goes on, pre-sawn. Everything is pre-cut to fit. So it's just like Mr. Joe calls it a boat kit. He said, "You're cheating. It's a boat kit now."
Well, so you had to, but so now instead of drawing it on paper, you draw it on a computer.
We do, yes.
And you're able to, I guess you're setting all the dimensions and everything that you send off for them to cut in that size, right?
Right. We'll start with kind of the specs that we want. Now I'll scale it out on AutoCAD and draw it out, and it's nice because you're able.
So AutoCAD is a program.
Right, the computer program. Sorry, yeah, it's all computer-aided draft and design.
And we're going to go out here and look here in a little bit on some stuff. But so, what's the first thing you built?
So the first thing you build, you start out. We have our crib that we started on, and all it is
a crib.
Yeah, so we have two beams we lay down, and then there'll be lines of angle liners. You want to start on a complete level flat surface. So it's just a table. We have two tables. We have that one where we start the boat, and we have the one where we do our prefab for all of our bulkheads, center keel. So the first thing. Is
this all in that building?
Right.
You got all big warehouse
right.
type deal that you lay it all out.
Right. So the first thing you do is called laying a keel. And you lay just flat sheets of steel out, make sure they're square and tacked together. And the very first thing is the center keel. So that's going to be your very center part of your structure, and it starts in the engine room. And from there, you do your aft engine room bulkhead, forward engine room bulkhead, and you start framing from there.
So it starts at the back.
Starts in the center, and you do the back wall, forward wall, and you can either start working from that wall back to the stern, which is the back, and then work your way forward toward the bow, and you just kind of start piecing everything together from there.
And then so that I'm assuming that's got to be a certain angle,
right?
The bottom of the tugboat.
Right. Yeah, and you have different designs. You have some of your flat bottom boats, like say all of our Arkansas River fleet. They're all kind of a modified Drevo Viking design, flat bottom, with a radius chine with a knuckle is what we call it. That'd be the bottom corners. It's like a 12-inch radius. The harbor tugs, they're more V bottoms. They have they're squared edges, but it's a V bottom. A little bit different design.
I mean, just different to be different. No advantages much.
So talking from a pilot's perspective, the V bottoms don't tend to slide, and when I say slide, meaning the boat just drifts sideways. Kind of like in a flat bottom john boat when you're duck hunting or fishing, you go and you turn, the boat kind of tends to slide a little bit. Sideways. Well, flat bottom boat is going to slide more than a V bottom. A V is going to cut, a little more intentional on your controls.
So which one do the pilots like best?
It's according. It's really what they get used to.
It's what they learn on.
Yeah, on the larger boats, you have your going back. You have your St. Louis ship. You have your Nashville Bridge Company, Nebrico, Drevo, Jeff Boat. That's the older four that come to mind. Of course, you have your new companies now like CNC.
The companies that used to make
used to make the older boats.
Gotcha.
And all very solid designs, and nowadays you get I'd say everything's kind of derived. There's some footprint from those. So
I bet it's probably critical that you don't make a big mistake when.
Yeah, there's not. We try and keep everything pretty tight. If I can keep everything within a 1/16 of an inch on being square and level and
really
all that, that's the goal. So
is it like anything else? If you're if you're a 1/4 inch off here, well, by the time you get here, you're going to be 2 feet off.
That's right. It progressively gets worse, so you try and keep it as tight as you can the whole time. But as long as you keep it level and square, that's the two main things. Because when these boats, we're building them, when they're in the shipyard before we slide it off in the water, that's the last time that they're ever going to be level. We get carpenters on here working on stuff, and they'll have a bubble level trying to level up a cabinet or something. I'm like, no, you can throw that away. I said, you're not going to get these boats level after they're in the water. That's it.
I guess not.
Yeah. So the last time they're level is before we launch.
Have you seen some? I'm assuming you've launched quite a few.
I've launched, let's see, Rosedale, Log Loader, Terrine, Legacy. And then we have Hull 30 going right now, Hull 31 after that.
Those were launched out of here?
Right, all right here. And we would get, 2 big dozers. We'd get a D8 and a D6 and start snatching on them, grease some timbers up, sit it on there, and pull till we can't pull anymore until it breaks over the hill and takes off.
Oh, man, I want to see that. Y'all got any videos of that?
I think I've got some video. I know I have one video on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, we got to see some of that. Oakley Trucking is a 100% owner-operator company. We specialize in hopper bottom, end dump, and pneumatic trailers. We provide the trailer free of charge, and you provide the truck. We have a large customer base that reaches the whole United States as well as parts of Canada. Our owner-operators live anywhere from Texas to North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Wisconsin and everywhere in between, and we get them home weekends. We take it seriously when you join Oakley Trucking because we need you to be successful. Oakley offers great benefits and competitive mileage pay, so you know that when your wheels are turning, you're generating money no matter if you're loaded or empty. We understand that you want to make a good living and that you make our living. We only take on independent contractors, and to be honest with you, we are very particular on who we lease on. You must have a good driving record, good work history, and clean, dependable truck. So if you're interested in Oakley Trucking or just want some more information, you can go to oakleytrucking.com, listen to our weekly podcast, The Oakley Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Some of the stuff that Joe was actually drawing by hand. So some of his old, so this is all some of his old ship's curves. That's how you blended your all of your curves, your lines, and your boats and all that. So this one This is when Joe was sketching on the Miss Alex. So this is kind of his general design layout. And, you know,
This is what you were just drawing on.
Right. So I can take this and, you know, you got your frame lines, you know, 0, 5, all on 2-foot frames. So, yeah, it's kind of how it starts right there. And you get your general arrangement, your floor plan of all your decks. This is your elevation view. This is your forward elevation view. And that's how you kind of start figuring out your stairwells, your room arrangement, tank arrangement, and things like that.
Right, because you'll have to know. I mean, you have to have enough room in here for your engines,
gears, coolers, all your steering gear, hydraulics for your rudders, all your air tanks, potable water tanks, generators, engineer's office, you know. So, and then all your framing has to line up because all your structural points, you know, where this deck rests, you want a solid bulkhead there. All your bulkheads, like right here is the back of this cabin, so you're going to have a solid bulkhead in there and down here too. So, you know, that kind of stuff, you just got to make sure you have continuity. That's the biggest thing on a boat hull is continuity of structure, so you don't have any weird stress points. And you don't want any hard points because it can cause cracking. That's one of the Arkansas River boats, Dorothy M. Janice, which is named after Joe's wife. So, another cool elevation. Same concept on here, you know, you can, you know, shape everything out. And so in there you have what you call, like this, so I was telling y'all earlier, you have a open wheel or a quart nozzle boat. So this is a harbor tug. This is the one I'm building right now. And this is an open wheel, meaning there's no duct around it. So you have your propeller here, and on this other boat, so let me see. So like on this one, you see the propeller would go right here, and you have that nozzle around it. It's just a round nozzle, and it maximizes the water flow. So that's the back view of it. That's kind of what it looks like. And you have to have all of your propulsion arrangement showing your engine and your reduction gear and your intermediate shaft, your shaft tube, and your propeller shaft and all that. So it kind of goes in layers, you know. Same thing here, like I was showing y'all over there. Here's just the computer version. You know, fuel oil, your diesel tanks, potable water in blue, lube oil.
How big is your fuel tank gonna be?
On this boat, if we ever build this one, so 64, so 128,000 gallons on this one.
What about the one you're actually building?
Let's see if I got that yet. It's going to be about 7,000 gallons.
Okay.
Something like that. You know, they don't hold near as much.
So you have the one you're out here building that we're going to go look at. You got it on here?
This is it right here.
This is it.
This is it. Yeah. So this is where you start. You know, this is, like I say, the master drawing. This is everything I work off of, and then off of this drawing I'll pull. Let's see if I can pull it up for y'all. Like a general arrangement. Yeah, here it is. So that's kind of the layout of the whole boat, deck by deck. So that shows, you know, up here we'll have our generators up top, and some of this we'll rearrange. We might put these generators in the lower engine room, and it shows the galley, engine cutouts, engines in place, all of your tiller arms for your rudders, where your hydraulics hook up, and all your deck layout. So, but that's kind of how we started. And then, of course, I take all of that and I start drawing off of this lines plan, and I'll transfer that to these drawings, and then these drawings I organize them by plate thickness. Like this is my nest set for what I need out of 1/2-inch steel. And then 3/4 steel, like your engine foundations, your rudders. These are the engine foundations right here. Your head log, which is the very front of the hull that's going to touch the barge, you know. And they form. This is all your instructions for how I need them to form that. If there's any forming, braking, anything like that. The transom, which is the stern, and your corners.
Well, that gives you you know how many pieces of steel you need.
Right.
And then you can order them.
Yeah,
already cut.
Yeah, I send this. I transferred this. This is what you call a DWG file. I turn it to a DXF so they can get it and read it, and they take it straight from there, put it into their program, and they use one called OMAX, and they lay a sheet of steel out, and when you get done, they'll lay a piece of 1/2-inch steel, and that's what it pops out. It'll have all the lines with the arrows pointing back to know the angle iron's got to face that direction. It takes all the guesswork out of, it's on the money, all that, what I was talking about earlier about being, within a 1/16 of an inch. I mean, these plasma cutters, it's on the money. If you put it on the line and you keep everything level throughout construction, check your level, it's going to be like it needs to be. It's cool getting to see it come together, And then, of course, when you start getting into the intricate stuff, say wiring and piping, I like the structure part. That part's fun too, but I'd rather see the structure come together than, the other parts. But, I'd say probably the biggest, the coolest thing is when you talk to pilots after they run the boat. And, they're bragging on how it handles and how, how it performs. And so, for example, I've got 2 boats that are sister vessels, the Rosedale and Log Loader, same hull design, same propellers, same engine, same rudders, same everything. Well, they swear one will outback the other one, but one will outshove the other one. It makes no sense. So anyway, stuff like that, which it doesn't matter, but, like the Terrene, it's got very large wheels.
That makes you think, how could that happen?
Right. And I'm sitting there, racking my brain, well, like, how does that work, But so the Terrene, it's pretty powerful for a harbor tug. Normal harbor tug is 1,000 to 1,200 horsepower, and they just talk about. He said, "Oh, that you hear that thing's a beast." Yeah. It's a really good handling boat, and compared to what we used to have another Rosedale, another log loader, and all hydrico valves, all air controls, hand winches, stuff like that. So a lot of these older pilots, they'll tell you like, hey man, these new pilots are spoiled. They're used to all this new equipment that's it responds really quick.
So how long does it take to build a boat?
If it's a design that's been done, most of the time, 12 to 16 months.
These ones you're talking about you've built here, those
I'd say, 14 to 16 months according. Sometimes we'd be waiting on water to come up. The water was too low to launch. But, yeah, I'd say 14 to 16 months.
And how many people you got working on
it? For a shipyard, a relatively small crew, 6 to 8 guys at any given time.
Okay.
It'll pick up a little bit once we start piping and running wires and stuff like that. So the structural side, most of the time I have 6 to 8.
So you don't have to, do you have to get outside contractors to come in and do stuff on?
The early boats, no. Here lately we've been contracting out the electrical work because our mechanics stay very busy.
Yeah.
Just on our repair and maintenance side. So we've like on the city of Cleveland, of course, we rebuilt those, the Leland Speaks in the city of Cleveland. They were existing hulls that we cut down and rebuilt the structure after, we had a base explosion on the engines and they burned. So we rebuilt those. We had contractors come in to do the electrical work. And
when do the engines go in, and how many are there?
Most of our boats are twin screws. They have 2. So those will go in. I actually just got the engines for this new harbor tug in 2 days ago. So they'll go in within the next few months, probably I'd say January.
So they're early in the process.
Early in the process. After we get the first deck on, we'll sit the engines in and cover them up so they don't get damaged.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty expensive.
Pretty pricey.
How much does a building some of these boats you've talked about launching out of here? I mean, what's the price on tag? It
so I think the Rosedale, Log Loader, Terrene, they range from back in the day when steel was 40 and 50 cents a pound, blasted and primed. You're looking at 1.9 to 2.7 million roughly for these harbor tugs. I think now you're looking closer to 4 million.
Golly.
So
no pressure there, Hayden.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure.
To build a $4 million tugboat out here.
So it's costing pretty close to, these Arkansas River boats. They used to cost us, $6 million, and
really
now there's no telling what they'd cost. For larger boats like say 160 to 180 foot boat, you're looking at $21-22 million for for a boat that size. So it's a big investment.
I guess steel is your biggest.
Steel, availability of products, but it's a domino effect. When one thing goes up, everything goes up. COVID kind of helped us there.
Right. What's the I guess the main components in a tugboat? Some of the most important, I guess, is the steel, the motors,
steel, and then your motors, your gears, your reduction gears, propellers, quart nozzles, which is the duct around. You can either have an open wheel boat, or you can have a quart nozzle boat, meaning a ducted propeller. So all of your steering system, your air system, your hydraulic system, a lot of systems go into it.
Wow.
And it's more closely regulated nowadays, especially after sub-M in 2000.
Oh, you got standards you got to meet.
Yeah, we do have standards now. All new construction pretty much has to be ABS. For new construction guidelines. So it's used to, we could, throw it together. Mr. Joe could throw it on a legal pad and loft it out, and we could just kind of go with it, start cutting it by hand and build it. Now we've got to get the okay. We've got to get some professional engineer stamps on drawings, some compliance letters to make sure that it's suitable for construction.
Do you have to get somebody out here to visually look at it?
We do. We use a group out of Texas, and they send somebody to come and check it out after they've reviewed some of my drawings and stuff like that.
Is that during the process or when it's completed?
They do some checks during construction periodically, and then they'll come at the end and do some weight and balance calculations, while it's in the water, things like that.
No kidding.
So it's gotten to be a lot more than when I started, in that short time, relatively short time.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, all the rules that come out now, but I mean, you're operating, a towboat out here on a river.
That's right.
It's got to meet standards.
That's
sure.
right.
And you want to build a good one. So I guess you learned some things in the past, building boats, on what not to do, maybe what to do, make them better, bigger, something better.
Yeah, learn some tricks, some ways to speed things up, ways to...
Don't give away any of your secrets.
Yeah. I don't think anything profound there, but...
Well, you got to make mistakes to make it better, I guess.
I've made a couple.
Surely not. What's the biggest challenge you think on building a towboat? I'm sorry.
Nowadays, I would say it's probably just the regulation nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, the construction, if you have a kind of construction oriented mind and you like to build things, and you can read a set of plans, you can build a boat. Being in this part of the industry, having my pilot's license to where I run actually I'm able to run a boat. I got my license in about 2015 after decking with my dad. So that kind of helped seeing both sides of it, knowing what these operators
So you can go out there and drive it.
I can.
You can build it, launch it, and drive it.
I can. I've gotten to do sea trials on several of the boats I built, so that was fun.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet that was rewarding.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, my dad being on one of the boats that I built too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's neat. That was probably one of my favorite boats that I've ever built, and getting to see him operate it every day.
That's pretty neat. I don't know if you ever went back and watched the episode I did with Charlie Boat
Johnson. On the Tamala Lee.
Yeah, on Tamala Lee. But I was amazed with the technology that they have in that wheelhouse,
right,
and stuff. How does technology play a part in these towboats?
Now it's pretty amazing because everything's tied in together. You have your Rose Point system, which is your electronic charting system. You have your radars. You have, and they're just, they're basically the same. They're a little more advanced now, but now you have, for safety reasons, you have the dead man alerters, which you either have a motion system or it's going off the steering system to make sure somebody's awake in that wheelhouse. If not, it'll start throwing alarms in the boat. You have all your, engine alarms that, or every little system has redundancy to make sure that we keep everybody safe.
Are these, which made me think of those engines? Now, are they? Do they have a lot more technology on the engines you put in there now, or than they used to?
We do.
Like sensors is what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, you have a lot. Like so our Arkansas.
Do you have to meet the DEF
system
on these?
So that's a whole different. Yeah, we could talk about that for a while. But so you had tier 0 non-tiered engines all the way through tier 4. You had non-tiered. You had tier 0, tier 0 plus, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 4 interim, tier 4 final. And so as the EPA started introducing, they were trying to get, more green, I guess. Yeah. They got to tier 4. And so and I guess it gets down all the way back to trucking. I'm sure that some of those engines had to use, even your highway vehicles, everyday use for,
Yeah, they got to have this.
Yeah, they have the
DEF system.
Yeah.
And you have to put urea. So towboats don't have to have that?
Well, they do. New construction. New construction has to, for all new construction now, you have to have tier 4 engines. And it's got, so like EMD, Caterpillar, they use DEF systems. It's a dosing cabinet that goes on top of the exhaust. And so you have to have basically 10% capacity for urea DEF that you have of your fuel capacity. It's got to be 10% of that. So if you have, some of our boats hold 100,000 gallons, you'd have to have a 10,000 gallon DEF tank in that boat. So very corrosive. Pretty much have to have a stainless steel tank separate, from every other system. So that's I guess I'd say, you asked earlier what's some of the bigger challenges, and that's probably one of the bigger challenges now is finding new room in these boats to house all the extra equipment now.
So you're going to have to put a DEF tank.
So on this one, there's a horsepower limit. Anything below 805 horsepower, per engine, you don't have to have DEF.
Oh, okay.
So these engines are 803 horsepower.
How convenient is
that? Yeah, barely missed it. So, there's some ways to get around some of it nowadays, but
well, that has just caused havoc in the trucks. Truck drivers and dealing with the system and stuff. It's been terrible. It has put a lot of guys out of business.
Right.
Just because of the DEF system and all the sensors that are on the trucks now. And
right.
Like you said, that's a whole nother episode talking about that. But it just clicked while I'm sitting there talking to you about that, because I know a truck driver's listening to this going, I wonder if they got to have a DEF system. And
it's different from the marine and the highway. We have our horsepower ranges are different to have to be tier 4.
Yeah.
But so currently, right now, all of our boats were before tier 4 was implemented. So all of our boats are either tier 0, 0 plus, tier 2, or tier 3.
So you're not having to deal with the DEF yet?
Not yet. It's coming. I'm not as scared of it as I was when they first introduced it. You're getting more of it in the industry, and I think they're getting it. They've not perfected, but they're getting a lot closer than what they were.
I hope so.
So the Arkansas River fleet, all those boats, they're 4,200 horsepower. They're all running Caterpillar 3516Cs. A lot of they're electronic engines, but no DEF, and they great boats.
Right.
Wrenches, gears, Nichols. We built the Miss Alex, and then Nichols Boat Company built all of those, modeled after the Miss Alex. So great boats. They do a really good job for us.
Yeah. I mean that's really interesting. I mean, being able to actually construct a towboat and watch it and put it in the water, then drive it.
Yeah, and that's
what's really crazy. Annabelle's, he was drawing them when he was a kid.
Yeah, I would when I was probably 12, 13, or maybe younger than that. I remember there was a website. It was Old River Bill's towboat, and this guy was, I don't know if he was a pilot or not, but he had a whole website dedicated to modeling these towboats. And I remember getting on there and watching, and then getting to come here and seeing all that stuff. And I would be a kid, and I would be building wood towboats in the garage. My dad would finally trusted me to use a jigsaw, and I would get some thin plywood and start throwing stuff together. So
that's crazy.
I always kind of had always an interest there.
Well, and now that you say that, you're building a toy out here in the shop that you showed us yesterday.
That's right, our Christmas float. So
yeah, how'd that come about?
Well, so back in the day, Jantran, they used to. All right, so when Mr. Joe would build the boats, when they had the customers, I think he might have told y'all earlier about maybe some of the Ashland oil boats they built or some of the contracts. Anyway, when they built those boats, they would kind of have christening parties, and they'd be pretty interesting. I bet that'd be a party.
Yeah.
Well, they used to have office Christmas parties that were pretty interesting office Christmas parties. Well, that was all before my time, and I remember they used to include the fleet pilots, the boat pilots all got to go, kind of like y'all's trucking parties.
Yeah.
So they were big, they were at crawdads, and that was all before my time, and I always heard about the Jantran Christmas parties, how, great they were, and I told Miss Leslie and Mr. Paul and Mr. Joe, like, we're going to have another one. Like, no, those days are long gone. And so something came up about, we saw another company had a really cool float. It was like a towboat. So it's like, we need one of those. And somebody said, well, I tell you what, if you can build this float in less than 10 days, we'll have a Christmas party again. I said, okay. So I went in my office and spent about 45 minutes drawing it up, and I had it cut at the steel company, delivered the next day, and we started putting it together. So, I held up mine at the deal, and they're holding up there, so we're having a old school Jantran Christmas party on December the 14th.
Nice.
So, yeah. So that's how it came about.
You'll be the big hit at the party.
Well, I'm not going to take too much credit. I got a good crew that, that they know how to build a boat, so this Christmas float wasn't anything for them.
Right. Yeah. So this really, Christmas float, it's actually steel.
It's scaled too. It's steel on a gooseneck trailer. It's a 2-scale drawing of one of our boats. So it looks pretty cool. They did a good job.
And how you going to get it? Well, you going to just put it on a trailer?
Yeah, we just loaded it on the gooseneck trailer, and one of our safety director, Josh,
somebody decorated it.
Yeah, they're going to put some lights, going to have working and spinning radars and LED lights on it and a horn and all that stuff. So some of our employees, they'll be walking. Some of their kids are going to ride it in the Christmas parade in Cleveland, and I think Rosedale the next day.
Does Joe know what this cost?
I don't know. We'll tell him something. Yeah.
It's going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
We'll get some pictures of that, too.
It'll be cool. It'll be cool.
We'll get some stuff done. Well, man, I appreciate you joining me. This is a great episode. I tell you, I learned so much in just the 2 days I've been here at Jantran, and I'm still not. I mean, a lot of that stuff you said just went right over my head, but it's interesting, and it's impressive what you're doing here and what you've done. I mean, it's very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. I owe a lot to Mr. Joe, Mr. Paul, and everybody here, Mr. Jerry, Mr. Bill. Learned a lot from everybody. Mr. Johnny, he's retired now, but they all taught me a lot, and I just soaked it up and learned everything I could, and it's been a good ride so far.
That's good. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. We're gonna go get some. We'll get some more information down here and get some more pictures and video of what you're actually building.
This is your side shell. All this is pre-cut. The only thing that's not pre-cut is the first layer of plate that we put down. So the guys, whenever we get everything framed out, we'll pick this up and they'll trim it to fit, like this right here. You say they've got to get this back down, push down where it's all flush, where they'll back gouge all this to be able to, they'll weld it all uphill, overhead. And then we still got to cut our holes for our tail shafts to come through and everything.
Oh, okay.
So, but like I say, biggest thing on this, keeping it straight and level, keeping it all square. But we prefab like our recessed boxes. This is where your copper grid coolers go to cool the engines and the generators and all that. So all this is fabricated, laying down on the table flat, and then everything is brought down here. And this is the crib that we start on. That's the first thing we do is level that whole crib up with all the blocking and everything.
Why are you using the angle iron?
So just to keep your initial plate that you lay your keel on, that's what you lay it down on to keep it all kind of flat.
How are you going to drag this off of there?
So we'll end up jacking this up. We put these legs on. We'll jack this boat, and you can see how much weight's on it. You can see how that leg's starting to press into the ground. Right now, you're probably looking at about 60 tons, and it'll be more than that. So we'll jack this up, say 3 to 6 inches, according to how much sag we have, and then we'll pull this out from under it, and then we'll replace it with wood timbers that run all the way down the bank, and then we'll get 2 dozers in here to hook onto it and pull it out and slide it.
You got to call me when you get ready to do that.
We'll do it. It'll be probably next spring or so. But anyway, so we'll come around here, and like I say, it takes a bunch of consumables. We have a tank farm of argon, because we use like a 75-25 mix of argon and carbon dioxide to shield our welding wire. So it takes a lot of that. But like on this, we still have to put our corners in, our bow corners. We have to put our toe knees, and these are the formed corners right here. We'll send this to the steel company, and you can see where they mark it, and they'll roll a radius on their plate roller, and that'll go. We'll cut that to a radius and fit it right there.
So you roll that here?
No, that's rolled in Greenville at that nickel steel company, and we'll do some prefab down there. You'll see like our mast poles, radar stands, and then that's the table down there. That's where we do all of our flat fabrication. But you have to have some really good welders that know what they're doing, because once we lower this down, every seam on here is welded laying on their back.
Really?
It's a slow process. Some boat builders like doing it upside down and flipping it over later on.
So is it just tacked up there now?
No, it's welded solid on the inside.
Okay.
And then they'll have to, everything's welded both sides, solid passes. So that's why we use a dual shielded welding process. It'll be a flux core with a gas shield. So better penetration. So this is the engine room. So when you hear me talk about our center keel, that wall in the middle of the engine room, that's your center keel. So your keel laying date is one of the most important things as far as documentation, because that's when the boat started. So this is the engine room. Engines will sit there and there, those beds that go up. That's where the
cradle there?
Right, that's where this boat has Mitsubishi S6R2s, so it'll be 1,600 horsepower total, the two combined. And then we'll have a wrenches gear behind it, reduction gear. So like right here, all they do, you see this one has the stiffeners on the back, the angle iron stiffeners. So all those, you'll see they're numbered like SIBL 22-26. That means like starboard, that's starboard inboard longitudinal frame 22 to 26. So they know every exact position. So TF 10 SI, that means transverse frame 10, starboard inboard side. So everything's got a specific number, specific location, so there's no question as to where it goes. But it's a fun process, Everybody I encounter that, talks about how neat this is, like, well, how long did so you're an engineer. It's like, I got enough engineering under my belt to be dangerous. That's what I tell everybody.